everyone, and welcome to the Scots Whay podcast. And this is the first of three best of 2017 podcasts that we're going to do. The first one is going to be on film, and then there'll be one on the best music of the year, and then also one on the best books of the year. But I can't do this alone, so I'm joined again by Chris Ward. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
And Wesley Shearer. How are you doing, Wesley?
I'm great, Ali. Thanks for having me back again.
Oh, always a pleasure. I can't believe it's been 12 years. I know that's an honest thing to say, but yeah, 12 months, and we've hopefully fitted a lot into that. And also Ian, good to see you.
Hello.
So, films of the year, I'm going to kick off, since it's Scottish Whay, with a couple of Scottish films. I don't think it was a great year for Scottish film necessarily, but there's two I want to mention. First off is T2 Trainspotting. I don't know, and I know, Chris, you haven't seen it.
I still haven't seen it. Yeah,
I'm hoping you may have seen this.
I have seen this. Yeah.
Excellent. So what did you think, Wesley, of Trainspotting T2?
Absolutely loved it. Yeah, I was pretty apprehensive going into it, I think, which is quite natural, to be honest. But, I mean, it might have been aided by the fact that it was part of a staff night out, and we went to the Grosvenor and had a couple of bottles of wine between each row, which did definitely help the enjoyment of the film. But no, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I exactly the same feelings. I was concerned that how could it possibly kind of live up to even just the hype of the first film, if that makes sense, because the reputation of that film almost became bigger than the film, if you know what I mean. Going back, I don't know, Chris, have you watched the first one for a while?
Not in a long time. No, it's probably not since I was a teenager, actually. Yeah. But it's one of those films that kind of looms large over, I think, certainly kind of formative years of people who have been teenagers since the mid-90s or in their 20s or whatever. It's one of these kind of like almost kind of youth culture kind of landmarks or whatever, you know. It's one that you see it on like kind of uni posters and stuff like this, you know, and like, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it became not just it became part of the whole Cool Britannia feel and all of that stuff. So I was concerned about it. I just think they got it absolutely spot on from the opening scenes with Renton on the treadmill and the way that they intercut it with pictures from the past and from the previous film. And you know, I mean, I don't suppose I ever considered Danny Boyle's been a great filmmaker, but he certainly can make great films.
That's funny you should say that. I'm exactly the same. It's every time a Danny Boyle film comes around, I'm always a bit sniffy of it, and I'm not really sure why, but you can't really deny, I suppose, his filmmaking talents. But I think T2 can be really summed up in how successful it was at achieving what it was supposed to achieve, by the fact that sole scene where he kind of rekindles the Choose Life speech. I'm thinking before it, I'm like, what are they going to do here? I mean, they can't do this. I think it showed it slightly in the trailer, and I was like, oh no, it's going to be terrible, it's going to be a rehash, it's going to be awful. And even when I got to that scene and he opened his mouth, and I'm like, oh jeez, here we go. Absolutely nailed it. It was brilliant, really was, from start to end. And I've also, probably the hardest I've laughed at any scene was the pin number scene. It was just...
Yeah, the scene where they steal all the credit cards, which of course is an original scene, it's not in any of the books. I think as well, having that, now whether it was by design or just it was the way things worked out, but to have the characters come back 20 years older, and actually 20 years older, you know, no needing to age them or do anything like that, they all looked like you would imagine their characters would look. You know, even, you know, a Hollywood film star like Ewan McGregor, you could see life etched on his face. Kind of the hard times are there, and I thought that was fantastic. It was so difficult to do, to get, after what had happened to them, get them back together and make it realistic that, you know, there was love and there was hate and there was you know, disappointment and all the things that would have happened. It was one of my favourite films of the year. It was terrific. Another film I'd like to talk about, not strictly a Scottish film I suppose, but made by Scottish director, is Daphne. I don't know if either of you saw Daphne.
Saw that as well, yeah.
Yeah, Daphne, I will, hands up here, is made by a good friend of mine, Peter Mackie Burns, and it was his debut feature, I mean, Peter's had success doing short films in the past, won the Golden Bear of Berlin with Milk and things like that, and has been trying to get this film made for a long time, and finally it came out. And I mean, I think we'll all know when someone you know makes something you're kind of holding your breath that it's going to be good, and I just think he kind of absolutely got it spot on. It was fantastic, great. It's about a young woman, not as young as she used to be, not maybe as young as she pretends to be, in London, and just trying to deal with single life in a big city where it's increasingly difficult to live and pay your way. Doesn't sound like it's a particularly exciting film, but it really gets inside the head. It's all about her. It's all about her character, really. Did you enjoy it? After me saying I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. It took me a while. It sat with me for a while. Actually, after the film had finished, I was really excited to see it, and my girlfriend and I both watched it. I don't think we could find it. I don't think we could find it on the cinema release. It might have been at the GST, and I don't think we got along to see it. So we just watched it on Curzon at home, and it was absolutely gorgeous. It was beautifully shot, so well acted. I wasn't entirely sure how the plot sort of moved the film on. Well, the lack of plot, which I quite like actually in films, especially films like that, when it's trying to tell that sort of story about exactly as what you said, a woman who sees herself as younger but isn't quite as young as she sees herself to be. And it kind of left me feeling a little bit cold at the end of it. But it actually sat with me for a couple of days, and the more I realised that actually I feel like it's meant to leave you a little bit cold. It
was never going to have a conventional happy ending,
course,
know. I think it would have been weird if it had.
Some of my favourite scenes were the sort of subtleties between herself and the manager of the restaurant she worked in. Is it the Irish actor? I think. And even when they're sitting down on the steps at the back of the kitchen, and it was just such honesty and such realism in the film that really kind of hammered home how important everybody's kind of sense of life is, if you know what I mean, because this is a woman who understandably probably comes from a privileged background. She's walking away through London. You kind of sometimes you find it hard in that kind of environment to really feel empathy for a character when they're working in London and they're living in a nice wee flat on their own, and you're kind of like, that's not really most folk can't really experience that kind of life. But the way it sort of kind of revealed each layer slowly until the very, very last scene where you're like, or the very last couple of scenes actually, the final act, where you actually think, do you know what, I'm totally on board with this woman and kind of her own personal struggles and her own inner struggles.
Completely, it's a difficult character to like, and I think that's a deliberate choice, you know, you're like that, I mean, she's a difficult character to like in the film, so therefore as an audience, like, I'm not sure if I'm on board with this, but yeah, I think by the end you are hopefully on our side, or at least kind of understand why she is as she is.
And that's testament to the film, I think, because if they opened it up straight away to kind of reveal why she was the way she was, it wouldn't have worked quite that same way. And I think that's the kind of ambition of the director, I suppose, in the writing, is to get the viewer on board eventually, but to make you question all of these things about that type of...
Not make it easy for you,
exactly.
Absolutely. Ian, I think actually it's a film you would enjoy, because there's lots of scenes in restaurants. She works in a restaurant, and they absolutely, for anyone who's worked in a restaurant, ring very close to home, I think.
Yeah, after listening to Peter talking about it as well, you and Peter talking about it on the...
we did a podcast with him, that's right.
I really thought, I need to go and see that one. Still haven't, but yeah, it does.
It wasn't easy to find, I mean, but it is on Curzon On Demand. I think you can still kind of pick that up.
I'll need to look it up.
And the next couple of films I'm going to talk about were at the Glasgow Film Festival. So since I've been talking here and Chris hasn't said anything yet, Chris, how was your Glasgow Film Festival this year?
Busy.
Yours was busy this year.
Yeah, I think I did 15 films at the actual festival, but ended up at 20 films over the span of it, just from stuff being on general release as well, because that was the week that like Moonlight was out that week and John Wick 2 was out that week.
The big films.
20th Century Women, so a lot of them all came out like over the span of the festival. But yeah, I think my final tally of actual festival films was 15, if I remember correctly, which as usual, when I do the festival with kind of older stuff, like I quite seeing some of the things that they unearth, kind of archival stuff, maybe stuff hasn't been seen for a long time, it's had a restoration, stuff that's been shown from like a 35mm print or something that you might not get a chance to see usually. So in terms of actually seeing new stuff, I didn't really see that much new. A lot of it was new to me. I saw a Portuguese film called The Ornithologist, which is really good, kind of shades of like Louis Buñuel and stuff like that, and that kind of satirical, kind of damaged by Catholicism, kind of things about an ornithologist, as the title suggests, who goes on a kind of scouting mission into the woods, and it becomes a kind of quite increasingly surreal like series of encounters based on, I can't remember, is it possibly St. Anthony of Padua off the top of my head? It's based on the life of Saint. It's like a saint's life done in this kind of like quite sacrilegious, like homoerotic, like kind of, as I say, very like, probably if you know the actual like story of the saint and are believing any of it, probably massively offensive, but it's really it's worth seeing. It's worth, if you're into like, I'm trying to think of a comparable film, maybe like if you saw Mother this year and liked it, the Darren Aronofsky film or something, which again kind of flirts with Buñuel and the kind of religious overtones and stuff like that, it may make for a kind of interesting companion piece for that. There's elements of like folk horror in it as well, bits of like kind of Wicker Man-ish kind of stuff come into play in it. But yeah, so that was probably the best like new film that I saw at the festival this year. But there were a couple of really cool discoveries they showed as part of the Matchbox Cineclub. They showed Crime Wave, which is a Canadian comedy from the mid-80s.
Yeah, I remember Crime Wave.
Which I think shares a name with a film that Coen Brothers scripted and Sam Raimi directed.
Well, maybe that's the one I'm thinking of.
But this one's a kind of really unique, kind of very like dark comedy about a guy who gets released from prison and moves into like the spare room of a family in the suburbs, and it's all kind of candy coloured. So it's this kind of, it predates Tim Burton. But it's got that kind of look of like the suburbs of Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands and that kind of stuff, that kind of candy coloured, kind of influenced by the 50s suburban idyll, just kind of not shattered but very much undercut by that kind of very dark, creeping, sense of kind of menace or whatever. If they've seen it, probably a big influence on Burton, probably a big influence on Wes Anderson, and like a real discovery. And they had the director there as well, John Pais, who stars in it and directed it too.
It's Canadian Crime Wave.
Crime Wave, yeah, is what it's called, and it's I think 1985, possibly Canadian. It's probably quite hard to track down, but if you can find it, I think there's like a new restoration kicking about. It's maybe like a crowdfunding thing, or where you might be able to pick up a DVD or something like that. But yeah, definitely worth keeping an eye out for. Other than that, the festival, I'm trying to cast my mind back now to what I actually saw. There was a bunch of Kurosawa stuff. Always a treat to see that in the big screen. See Seven Samurai and Yojimbo and everything, and. God, I saw King of Jazz, which is a very early musical, very early, like talking like maybe 1930.
Wow.
Kind of Hollywood musical. Agnes Varda's One Sings the Other Doesn't, which always, again, Varda going through a kind of wave. I saw a thing online the other day suggests that she's kind of reaching Werner Herzog levels of memification on Twitter just now. She's like film Twitter's granny or something. Just everybody like, she's just doing adorable things. Here's another cute picture of Agnes Varda doing whatever. So yeah, it's good to actually be reminded of the talent behind that's kind of earned her that position and stuff, because their films are kind of, aside from something like Cleo from 5 to 7, they're maybe a little kind of underseen generally. So it was nice to be able to get a chance to see it with an audience. So yeah, it was a busy festival this year.
Did you the Glasgow Film Festival at all this year? It was a while ago, I suppose.
I don't think I did. I'm just thinking back as Chris was talking all about that, and every year I aim to tick so many off the list, and every year I failed to buy a ticket. Was I think I seen I'm Not Your Negro, was that at the film festival?
That was at the film festival,
yeah, because I was talking to you about it.
Yeah.
I was going to go along, and Chris was going along, and I never ended up getting tickets, so I ended up watching it later in the year, but that's just my usual film festival, is leave tickets for films I want to see until it's too late, and then don't get along to the other one, because exactly as Chris said, there was other big releases out that week that I kind of went to see instead, but unfortunately not. I'm just going to have to lock up the tickets early next year, I think.
Yeah.
Did you see Lost in France?
I did see Lost in France.
So that was on it.
I didn't see it at the festival. I rented it after the fact.
Which is the Chemical Underground film. They filmed it 20 years ago?
98 I think. Yeah, so coming up 20 years ago, a tour bus, not even a tour bus, just a bus full of Mogwai,
some of our favourite
Arab Strap,
musicians.
the Delgados, R.M. Hubbard, and he was in a band with Alex Kapranos at the time. I believe Hubbard was in a band with Alex Kapranos because they go back together, and they take the now aged musicians. Some of them, not. I think it's like who's it is like Emma Pollock and Stuart Henderson. I think go back, and Hubbard and Kapranos and Stuart Braithwaite.
Yeah, they actually take them back.
Yeah, but it's not every member of every band. I don't think they have either of Arab Strap. But they go back on the bus and they all played in the late 90s, played in this little club in the like a small town in France. And so it's them trying to like retrace their steps and going. They do some of their own songs, they do some collaborations and all that kind of stuff.
I think it probably only works if you like the music.
Even then, I'm not entirely convinced that it works. like I wasn't like, because obviously I'm an easy mark for something like that. Like that's entirely in my wheelhouse. Like that is exactly, the kind of stuff that I love, and especially following on from Where You're Meant to Be last year, which totally, like, I don't want to say redefined, but really like showed what you could do with a documentary like that, where you're playing about with like notions of time and age and how music feeds into that, and passing down music from one generation to the other and the emotional impact it can have. And I don't know, just compared to something like that, Lost in France really kind of came up short for me, unfortunately. Which it just felt like, it feels like there is a really good film to be made out of that, but I don't know if it was just the approach they took with this one or what it was, but it felt very much like it was going down like it was already trying to encase in amber this scene where most of the participants are still making like vital music. I suppose that's true. Pretty much all of them have been nominated for SAY Awards in the past 5 years. It's not like you're not talking about like people whose best work is 40 years behind them.
I thought that's why it was interesting, was you saw the beginnings of these musicians who are still making a lot of
But I thought the tone that it struck was very much like these kind of quite like hagiographic, fawning rock docs about, like Zeppelin or the Beatles or, the Stones or something like that. Is like, oh, well, you had to be there. If you weren't there, you won't know, all kind of stuff. And again, talking about them as if they were all, massive, like 40, 50 years ago. And it's like, well, no. Like, it's been, especially with someone like Alex Kapranos, it's been, like, 13 years since that Franz Ferdinand album came out? It's not like, it's the recent past, it's still stuff.
Maybe it's a sign of shrinking, history, things that actually weren't that long ago now, I look back upon as like nostalgically.
Yeah, absolutely. I think unearned nostalgia. Not unearned necessarily, because I'm sure for the people who were there, they do look back on it very fondly. But as I say, because everybody is still very active in the kind of Scottish music scene, it felt a bit premature to be kind of
celebrating
making it like a monument to the past already.
I'm entirely impressed with that, I've got to say. I just remembered I went to see it at BBC. Was that part of the film festival?
Yeah.
So that I did go and see that, and exactly what Chris said. Unfortunately, I enjoyed moments of it, and I thought moments of it were great. It was great to see a lot of those people together on the big screen, and to go back to those days that kind of, as you say, led to something special and kind of preempted what was to be. But I just felt for me it was very inward looking as opposed to outward looking, when there's a lot there still to celebrate. And as Chris said, the tone of the film itself could have led to, well, this was a time where it was easier to make records and release them and have people buy them, and it's not such the case just now, but we are finding other ways to repackage old stuff or to create new music and collaborate in certain ways. Whether it is R.M. Hubbard with his new stuff, with a lot of his friends working on albums, and Alex Kapranos working with Sparks for a lot of people now, and all of these different things, and instead it kind of seemed to focus on the Stuart Henderson Chemical Underground kind of thing that's sort of, there's a kind of shot of Stuart sitting in the Chemical Underground office, all the boxes everywhere, and it's as if to kind of say, well, this is the kind of dying era, and it's like, but it's not, because a lot of those people are still involved in things today that are quite inspiring and are actually,
So you made some of the best music ever in the last few years.
Yeah, I just felt like it was kind of it was a little bit self-congratulatory, although it was deserved, but then it was sort of kind of self-deprecating when I didn't think it needed to be. So it was quite strange tonally.
I think I probably enjoyed seeing it on the big screen, because it was something that normally you would watch on a much smaller screen, and to hear the music come across well. And I guess there probably was a hit of nostalgia as well with it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I did enjoy watching it at the BBC though. That was a good experience.
Well, I'm going to mention a couple of films I saw at the film festival. One was Ellie Kendrick's The Levelling, which is set down. I think kind of Somerset way, so I'm not entirely sure, but down in the south of England, and is around at the time where there was lots of floods and obviously wiped out a lot of the farms there, and it was about a young woman coming back. The brother has apparently committed suicide, and it's her kind of reconciling, or trying to reconcile with her dad and solve a whole lot of things. But what was, you said about Daphne being beautifully shot, the levelling is stunning, absolutely stunning, with the wildlife and the countryside, and everything's just fit to burst because there's all this water everywhere, and natural life is finding a way where actually the people on the land are really struggling to do anything with it. And it's a beautiful film, and I've just realised that I called it Ellie Kendrick's The Levelling, where actually she was the actress that was in it, who's Ellie Kendrick's also in Game of Thrones, for fans of that. But it was Hope Dixon Leach's, and I think it was her debut feature film. Anyway, another one to check out. I also want to mention a documentary by David Graham Scott called The End of the Game, which was about this old man who lives up in the north of Scotland, who had been in the army and various things during his life. He lives in a caravan now, although I think he's trying to do a house up. Real eccentric Colonel Major, looks a bit like the guy from Jumanji, the first Jumanji film that comes out the board with the hard hat and the blunderbuss and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of apt because he's a big game hunter, and he goes for the kind of last big game, and David follows him there. David's a vegetarian, in fact he's vegan, and this unlikely friendship, is it a friendship? I don't know if you'd say that, but this partnership builds up as he follows him, and it's a disturbing film in many, many ways because he doesn't shy away from showing what's going to happen here. And a lot of people have said to him, why have you made this film? You're kind of allowing... he didn't pay for him to go and do the hunt. He was going to do it anyway. I think he was hopefully trying to say, here's the reality of these things. The bad, which is kind of obvious, but also the good. What was really interesting, this man, almost from a colonial past, who just really didn't fit in the modern world, is caught a couple of times saying things on camera that you just put your head in your hands and oh God, really? He's an old man as well. It's a really interesting documentary. I think you can watch it online, maybe even on Vimeo. But The End of the Game by David Graham Scott. And final one I just want to mention is a film I saw about. I think it's on sometimes on BBC Alba. It's about Benny Lynch, the boxer Benny Lynch, who was arguably Scotland's greatest ever sportsman. Died very young, but when he was at his peak, he was just world famous and incredible guy. And if you're into your sport at all, I just think a really good documentary, Benny, is all about Benny Lynch. So that was my kind of festival, and really that's been my year in film. I haven't seen a lot. And I've seen a couple of things that we might talk about, but let's have a chat about what films you've seen this year. Wes, start off with yourself.
I have made a list of a top 5, but I realised when I was kind of putting it together that there's a few other films that aren't really in there that are just worth talking about. But I think we have to start any film 2017 chat with talking about Moonlight, to be honest. Right. For me it was just, I think I said something like every time I go and see a film I just get so anxious to put a tweet out about it and to send it out there to Twitter where nobody cares about it. And I think I said something about it was visually poetic and kind of overwhelming in the silence of the film. And it doesn't really mean much in that kind of 140 character tweet, but it really is just full of all these superlatives that you can throw at it. It's hard hitting, it's tender, it's kind of tragic, but there's so much empathy and kind of pathos that runs throughout the film. It's not even... It's beautifully constructed, which we can say about, I think, a lot of films we'll talk about this year. But it's not just the aesthetics of it. The sort of... Everything from the kind of subtlety and the acting to the kind of realism and the very, very limited dialogue that's kind of throughout the film, to all these kind of intertwined narratives that sort of build up the characters and kind of follow the plot a little bit. it kind of really is just kind of a deconstruction of sort of masculinity and sort of intimacy really, and what it means to be a black American kind of growing up and living with being homosexual, and kind of a lot of other things. It's quite socio-economic in places, which again has been quite a big theme of films this year, and it's just completely human to its core, and I just don't think we can really understate how powerful an impact the success that film has had is going to have on film going forward. And it just shows you what happens when you give a platform to kind of minority groups to be able to tell their own stories, and their stories that should completely and utterly be told.
I mean, it's a film that could, because of the subject matter it deals with being kind of dry and worthy, for want of a better term, but actually it was incredibly artistic and beautiful in its content and the way the story was told as well. Chris, did you?
Yeah, I loved Moonlight. I absolutely loved it. I think it's one that it creeps up on you. I don't think there's any one single moment within the film that while you're watching it that you might stop and think, oh, this is breathtaking or whatever, but then by the end of it you're kind of just left there kind of sprawling, just kind of in a daze or whatever, you know. I mean, you can certainly point to moments here and there. I know if I say the chair moment, like, that's massively satisfying, and then towards the end in the kind of third act where it goes a bit Wong Kar-wai, and you have the moment in the car where they have the chopped and screwed version of Classic Man playing. So there are moments here and there, but I think just the kind of the cumulative impact of it outweighs the kind of individual, you know, scenes and individual moments, and just the fact that I still can't believe that it won the Oscar. You know, it's the most quiet, unassuming. You know, the fact that it was nominated at all in the first place felt like enough. You know, and just to have it, and then obviously it runs the risk of being overshadowed by the whole kind of, you know, just absolute shitstorm ensued at the Oscars when Warren Beatty read out the wrong name, you know, read out La La Land instead, and there's a worry that it might be remembered for that as a piece of trivia more than, you know, the actual substance of the film. But it's just, it doesn't deserve that. It deserves so much more than that. It's just such an absolutely gorgeous film, and you don't want to say important film, you know, quotation marks and stuff, but it really feels like
I think you're right. I think the fact that it won is incredible, because you can imagine, as often with these kind of short lists or any kind of list, you think, well, let's put, that's a box tick, we've got that in the short list, but it's never going to win. But actually the fact that it did was incredible.
I mean, it's a small film, you know. I mean, it has massive ambitions in the sense it's trying to tell a life story condensed into, you know, these three kind of separate moments in time, and how they kind of intersect and combine to make a person. But it feels like it's a landmark in LGBT cinema. It's kind of a landmark in black cinema, and it feels like I mean, it just feels incredible that that's the film that that won this year the most. I mean, for all you can talk about the Oscars don't matter and stuff, and they're not any kind of worthwhile barometer of taste. When something like this happens, it's still very easy to be awed by that, you know, and think, well, this is the biggest platform for movies that, you know, the worldwide public gets, you know.
And that's the way that they do matter, is that people that would never have seen that film because it won an Oscar will, you know, actually go out and have seen it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what other ones do you in your five?
Well, a film that stayed with me a lot recently in the past few weeks has to be the Florida Project. Now, the Florida Project, I kind of went in not knowing a lot about it, other than Willem Dafoe was in it, and it was Sean Baker, who I only ever knew from Tangerine from last year.
Yes, absolutely.
Which was obviously excellent for anyone that doesn't know. Tangerine was shot entirely on an iPhone, well, a very souped up iPhone, for I think way less than even $500,000 or something like that, and was about transgender sex workers, and it was funny, it was uplifting, it was human, it was everything I want in a film, and it completely taken me by surprise last year, and I absolutely loved it. So I was really excited to see this. Went in not knowing much about it, other than there was some reference to Disney there in the Florida Project, being Walt Disney's sort of initial idea for the original Walt Disneyland, and the contrast of that throughout the film is just absolutely remarkable. I mean, I honestly can't stop thinking about it since I've seen it. It's a film it's focuses on young girl Mooney growing up in what is now referenced as the Florida Project and kind of the title of the film, and it's just all of these sort of motels, kind of motel complexes, if you like, on the outskirts of Walt Disney World, where families actually live day to day, week by week, sort of, and have to leave again at the end of that term, and we kind of join that motel, we stay there because they're not actually allowed to legally live there for longer than the 28-day period or 30-day period. And it's something I wasn't really aware about.
No.
And just watching those sort of 35mm tracking shots of this kid's adventure and seeing everything from a kid's eye view, it's just a film that was never ever judgmental at any point. I mean, it's a film that I know a lot of people, there's a lot of walkouts during, and I've heard a lot of people really found it difficult getting bored with it because the parenting in it isn't up to a certain standard that they like it to be, and they feel like that's kind of hard to empathise with the lead character, and but I mean, that final act absolutely broke me. That's probably the most I've cried in a cinema in a long time. It completely sideswept me, and anybody that's seen the film will know what I'm talking about, but just watching the change and the shift in dynamic of that character was stunning to me. And I think just the way that they cast films like that, or Sean Baker does it anyways, now become very well known for casting unknowns in these films. And I think, was it Brooklyn Prince Jr. or something that plays Mooney, the girl, she was kind of a breakthrough actor, and the woman that played her mum, Hayley, I think was cast, she was found on Instagram and she was cast that way. So just to get that sort of performance out of these people that you genuinely believe are from this area and genuinely believe in their kind of struggle, to direct that kind of performance out of people who have just never done this type of thing before, alongside a kind of veteran actor like Willem Dafoe, is just astonishing. And the ending of the film I immediately wasn't entirely satisfied with, but as the days went on, the more it sat with me, the more I thought about it, the more it sort of made sense. And there was other ways I felt the film could have ended, but just as a whole, it was just, it's just been a long time since, apart from Moonlight, I've seen a director remove so much judgment from a film on kind of characters in that sort of a situation, and just let the viewer make up their own mind and not be scared to do that, which is, as I said, why there's been a lot of walkouts of this film. It's been quite divisive, but
quite challenging to people.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, I have to say. Have you?
It's very good. Yeah, it's very good. I think it deals with poverty in a way that you don't often see in American cinema. It kind of maybe has more of a vibe of like kind of Italian neorealism. You know, you're talking like kind of post-war, like Rossellini kind of stuff, but it really deals with it in a way that there's no glamorization, but there's also no kind of like noble poverty. You know, it's like, oh, look at these people suffering, aren't they better than the rest of us? But it's just like they're people, you know, and that's it, and they're in a situation, they're dealing with it. But at the same time, it does it in a way, because it's shot from a kid's point of view, everything's vivid and colourful and, you know, just bigger than life. And it walks a very fine line, and kind of that kind of stylisation with the kind of purple walls and the motel and everything like this, and everything's really super colourful and obviously very kind of artificial in the shadow of Disney, whilst being this brutally honest kind of, you know, very kind of this is what it's like to be poor in modern day America and have to live with the kind of the crushing expectation of, like, you know, actually doing, you know, living up to the kind of the American dream, for want of a better way of putting it.
In terms of themes, it sounds kind of like Mike Leigh.
A little bit, yeah. I would say maybe even like Mike Leigh. It doesn't really go for the kind of the comedy of discomfort as much as Mike Leigh does. I'd say it's maybe more raucous than Mike Leigh is. Right. It's maybe a little bit more kind of like brash in its comedy than Mike Leigh is. Mike Leigh tends to go for that kind of comedy of discomfort and very kind of, you know, like social mobility and upward striving and stuff. You know,
Ken Loach has been bandied about quite a lot as well, and that kind of, but it's a very more stylistic.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think from the films that we've spoken about already, style this year was almost over. Not over substance, because what you're saying, these films have incredible substance, and the style just helps the story get told. Chris, what about you this year? Give us a couple of films that you would really recommend.
Well, my favourite film of the year was actually the first film I saw in cinema this year. I saw it on the 2nd of January, which is Silence, Martin Scorsese's Silence, which is not only my favourite film of the year, I think it's one of the greatest films made this century so far. It's absolutely overwhelming. I think it's one of Scorsese's best as well, and it's one that it always massively frustrates me when Scorsese gets pigeonholed as like a gangster filmmaker, as like Goodfellas, Casino, The Departed, all of that, because there's so much more to his filmography than that. Well, yeah, Last Temptation, and it's very much like it almost kind of forms a thematic trilogy with like Last Temptation of Christ and Kundun. I feel like it's kind of like his religious trilogy, although obviously like Catholic guilt creeps into pretty much everything he's done, like right back to like Mean Streets, and well, Who's That Knocking at My Door, even like further back than that. But it's absolutely like monumental. So it
was a long time ago, and I didn't see it. So tell us a little bit about Silence.
So it's based on a Japanese novel. It's been made as a film in Japan before in the 70s, I think, and it's about Catholic missionaries in Japan in the 16th century, who one of their number they've lost contact with, who's played by Liam Neeson, and they don't know if he's been killed, if they don't know if he's been martyred, they don't know if he's kind of gone native, for want of a better way of putting it, and so they send a couple of other missionaries to kind of go and try and find him, played by Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver, and it just kind of follows them on their journey to find out where he is and what happened, and going into these kind of Catholic pockets of Japan with the kind of persecution that entails, because it's a minority religion at the time. It's not looked upon too kindly by the ruling classes, and it's by Scorsese's time, he's talking about like style and everything like that. It's one of the least flashy films that Scorsese's ever made. I think it draws on a much deeper well of like one of Scorsese's old collaborators, Paul Schrader, wrote a book called about transcendental cinema, and he talked about like Otsu and Robert Bresson and Dreyer. That's like his three examples of like the transcendent cinema, and it's a film that kind of draws on that, I think, a lot of the time, that kind of deeply spiritual filmmaking, and quite austere, especially by Scorsese's standards. There's none of the kind of the quick cuts or the kind of the really flashy, like
Layla doesn't play over the top.
There's no attention drawing needle drops or anything like that. But again, like Moonlight is just that kind of cumulative power of it, where it just kind of slowly overwhelms you until you get to the final moments, and it's jaw dropping. It's just, again, maybe I don't know if it would have the same impact watching it at home. So if people haven't seen it already, I don't want to build it up too much in case because
I'm afraid you've done that.
I know, but, But it's absolutely, it's overwhelming as a piece of cinema, and it's astonishing to me that Scorsese managed to pivot from The Wolf of Wall Street to this, like one after the other, and well into his 70s at this point. I think
it's quite a leap.
Yeah, and to still be making, I think, like they're two of the best films of his career, and to still have that in him this far into it is just it's staggering. So
that was the film of the year.
Film of the year for me, yes.
What was following up?
Moonlight actually was my number 2. I think after that, I don't want to feel like the rest of this year has been really substandard or anything, but all my favourite films of the year were like kind of holdovers from last year's Oscar season. So Manchester by the Sea as well, Kenneth Lonergan's Manchester by the Sea. The first film he's actually shot in a decade, because Margaret, his previous film, he shot in 2006, and it was held over for years in kind of legal troubles. It finally screened in, I think, 2011. But you've mentioned yeah. I talked about it. I think probably the first year we did one of these podcasts. I talked about Margaret. But yeah, so Casey Affleck plays a divorcee who kind of is drawn back to his hometown for family reasons. I don't want to give too much away, but as the plot goes on, you find out. Like, it's one of these things where the structure is very much about revealing more details as it goes on. So he goes back to deal with some issues from his past, some that have now kind of crept into his present, and without wanting to give too much away, things get pretty emotional. Film, I know, like, you were in it as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm exactly the same as Chris. I feel like kind of Lonergan's been overlooked a lot in his career for various reasons, as you were just discussing, and a lot of people kind of written him off before he'd even got started, if you like, and that just goes to prove how great he can be, and Casey Affleck was obviously the perfect choice for it in terms of his acting ability, and yeah, it was fantastic. It's another film that stuck with me right from the beginning of the year all the way throughout, and yeah, it was like, I think it was number 3 in my list, so yeah.
Number 3 in your list?
That was number 3 on mine as well, yeah. I in terms of like, actually, that was another one I saw at the festival. Actually, I'm just going through my number 4 on the list. It's amazing. I mean, if you'd said to me like 10 years ago that not only would we be getting regular Terrence Malick films, we'd be getting them so regularly that we get 2 in a year. Yeah.
That is odd, definitely.
Blowing my mind. But so there were a couple of this year's Song was very good. It got a very limited release considering it had like, Rooney Mara, Ryan Gosling, Michael Fassbender.
Got a bit of a kicking, if I remember critically.
It's great. Like, I loved Song to Song, but I really loved Voyage of Time, which screened at the festival this year, which was made kind of with, not exclusively with offcuts from the Tree of Life, but it certainly had its genesis in the kind of the creation of the universe sequence from the Tree of Life, and it's just kind of ostensibly a documentary, but I mean, I wouldn't go in it looking for any kind of educational value. It's very much kind of a personal take on the kind of development of life on Earth within that kind of very, again, kind of spiritual, some would say woolly philosophical style that Malick's kind of developed with voiceover. The whole kind of mother, father, why do you wrestle inside me kind of thing, for always you wrestle inside me thing from the Tree of Life. So it's that kind of style, so you're on board with it or you're absolutely very much not on board with it, but I loved it. Again, just there's a sequence in it that is kind of like if Malick had done the Dawn of Man sequence from 2001 Space Odyssey, and I think it's one of the best things he's ever put on screen, so it's definitely
it's almost worth checking out just for that to see it.
Absolutely. But in terms, I was thinking about this, like all of my top 4 were all films that were actually made last year and just got released in the UK this year. Like, they would feel as though we've been talking about them for ages. So in terms of something that actually did come out this year, the aforementioned John Wick 2 was like, I loved the first one. I'm sure I talked about it on here a couple of years ago when it came out. Just incredible piece of action filmmaking. And the second one, again, I wouldn't say divisive, but I think it was maybe a little more coolly received than the first one. It does a bit of what's coming, what a lot of people now refer to as world building, where it kind of like deepens, and builds this kind of mythology around it. Whereas the first one was quite streamlined and quite, very clean, just straight ahead. He's got an objective. He's going to kill a load of people to achieve it. That's it. There's going to be a few gunfights. Everybody's going to go home happy. This one was a lot more kind of almost like Jacobean. It's very kind of like a Revenger's tragedy kind of thing. It throws in all these kind of aspects of like classical mythology and stuff, and gets very kind of baroque with it. But so I think that threw me. I saw it twice in cinemas. I think the first time I saw it, it kind of threw me a little bit, and I wasn't sure how I felt, but I liked it a lot more the second time around. Once you go in knowing that it's not going to be exactly along the same lines as the first one, and it's doing something a little different with it. There is an action set piece towards the end in a hall of mirrors that is one of the most staggering things I've seen in the cinema this year. So it's still, if you're into that kind of thing, it is very heartily recommended.
And do you think this is Keanu has found his perfect role?
Oh, absolutely! Like it's made for him. He doesn't have to say much. He gets to look cool. He gets to move gracefully on screen. It's great. He's great in it. Very game supporting cast. Ian McShane, Lawrence Fishburne, Common is in it.
He's built up quite a career.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very good. It's very good.
Number 4 and 5 of the year for you?
Well, actually, when we look at the actual list and see, there you go. So number 4 is The Handmaiden for me, actually. It was a bit of a strange one. I mean, I don't think I've ever been more willing to sit through a sort of, was it like 3 hours or something like that, sort of deceitful Korean melodrama as I have this one. But I mean, I had my reservations at the start, like going into it. I mean, I'm a big fan of Park Chan-wook, obviously. Old Boy, and this is probably his most famous film. Kind of Lady Vengeance, that kind of thing. I mean, he's directing what is considered to be one of the most groundbreaking LGBT novels of recent years, I think, about sort of sexual liberation of women, and it was originally set in Victorian England, and it's now been kind of moved to kind of Japanese-controlled colonial era Korea. in the 1930s, I think. Yeah,
early 20th century.
Yeah, and I'd obviously had concerns about that because it's very open to the male gaze. There's going to be a lot of kind of women's kind of female sexual scenes in it that is directed by someone who's not entirely known for their kind of emotional tenderness at times.
No, not from his previous films.
Yeah, I mean there is sort of in the kind of undercurrents in the kind of writing of the characters, but not in terms of the kind of visual elements of his films. But I mean, for me, like, despite a lot of the lingering sex scenes and stuff, it didn't really seem that gratuitous. He seemed sort of kind of really aware of the kind of dichotomy at play of, rather than kind of try and shy away from it, he just kind of gave it a little bit of freedom, and a kind of sense of freedom that it really needed. And for me, that kind of sort of transcended it. But I mean, I'm not really the best person to be commenting on the male gaze, so I'm sure that's for other people to comment on, and there has been a lot of pieces both ways written about it. But that aside, I thought the film itself was incredible, and it had me hooked the entire way throughout. It wasn't a story I was familiar with, and I mean, it was like gorgeously gothic as well, and it's got the kind of mixes a kind of unnerving thriller aspect with a sort of kind of, I don't know, the sort of duplicity of a kind of old fashioned kind of comedy crime caper. And it was done extremely well. I thought I really enjoyed it. I think you've seen it as well.
Yeah, I did. I actually saw on Easter Monday of all days with a couple of pals, one of whom was a big Park Chan-wook fan, didn't have any idea what he was getting into with this. The other one had never heard of Park Chan-wook and also didn't know what he was getting into, so I was just sitting between them like, kind of, well, I knew exactly what I was getting into with this. I think the others, they were kind of taken aback a little bit. I think any time they hear the like clinking metal, they'll have like a Pavlovian response to it at this point. But yeah, no, I think everybody kind of thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, it's one of those ones that just kind of keeps building as it goes, and it's got a really like strong sense of humour as well, because it has the potential to be like, you know, you hear Park Chan-wook's doing like a romantic period piece here, like
yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
But no, it's very good. It's still very much a Park Chan-wook film. I think it's like, I mean, people throw around words like restrained and mature, but by his standards, like, there's still, I mean, by his standards, yes, but by anyone else's standards, there's still a lot of like really.
Are there any octopuses in it?
Literally just about to say there's even an octopus in the final act. Yeah, not quite to the same extent. But I've seen it appear on screen. And I was like, no,
this can't be going here. But yeah, no, it's very good.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. I mean, in terms of other films, I suppose, just to touch on a couple quite quickly that kind of were quite surprising to me, where probably you'd kind of make a kind of nice kind of double bill would be if you're into sort of kind of bleak period drama stuff, which I never really realised I was into until this year. I really enjoyed France, which was a film by kind of Francois Ozon, which was really good. The lead actress Paula Beer, she was absolutely incredible in it. Francois Ozon done 8 Women with Isabelle Huppert, obviously, which was excellent, and I think he did a film with Charlotte Rampling. It was a bit OTT in places. I can't really.
He's done a couple with her. He did Under the Sand, and he did Swimming Pool.
Swimming Pools, that was the one, yeah. But it was a weird film that we just watched, and I just never wanted to finish. It was it's like a kind of slight reimagining of an old kind of Ernst Lubitsch story, which I'd never heard of, and a big fan of him, like, of the kind of old stuff. The Shop Around the Corner obviously kind of plays in the house at Christmas, and it's excellent, as was Trouble in Paradise. But it was a story I hadn't really heard of, and I think got a bit of a kind of pang in terms of his usual body of stuff. But this was kind of reimagined, and it was just really quiet, simple, slow moving, but the performances were absolutely captivating from start to finish, and it was kind of something I kind of keep going back to, and it's just kind of a bit of good old fashioned filmmaking. Actually, that's a horrible phrase. It's like a Brexiteer. But yeah, it was
It's
really
going to
good.
be old fashioned but still okay. Yeah.
Just go back to the roots of filmmaking. But it was really good, and the other one would have been kind of Lady Macbeth. Again, wasn't really expecting much from that, and it was just completely unashamedly empowering and emphatic, and the way it kind of slowly unravelled the kind of lead performance, and the lack of score was like extremely sinister at times, especially the kind of scene. Actually, I won't even reveal what scene it is, but if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. It was really chilling to watch, and oddly profound in its sort of immorality, if you like. It was great. The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Did you see that?
I didn't see it actually. No, I haven't seen it.
Have you seen that? Did you watch that?
No, I haven't seen Killing a Sacred Deer. No.
Kind of Yorgos Lanthimos film. It was
Is that just recent?
Yeah, it was kind of last month, I think it was. I mean, it's just very, very Yorgos Lanthimos. Beautiful shots of hospital corridors, and the main thing for me that kind of held my interest in that was the sort of Greek tragedy element. Because I went to see Oresteia, this Restless House at the Citizens earlier this year, which was on for I think the actual duration was about half a day. But it was outstanding. It was really good, and Greek tragedy is not something I'm massively familiar with, but I really enjoyed that. It's kind of based on the kind of I've written it down here because I was going to forget the name of it. The kind of Greek myth of Iphigenia, where our father Agamemnon sacrificed her to the goddess, and it's kind of turned it into this modern day take, and very, very uneasy, very unsettling, completely enhanced by the gentleman behind me who passed out at the most unnerving and important scene in the entire film, in the final act. That completely distracted me from it. So as I turned around to see what was going on and make sure he was okay, he just came to, and just as I turned back around in the screen, everything had all changed. So that's going to stick with me for a while, but I really enjoyed that as well. Yeah,
I was very much here for the year's other Colin Farrell and Nicole Kidman joint, which was Sofia Coppola's The Beguiled, remake of the Don Siegel film from the early 70s with Clint Eastwood, which set during the Civil War. Is set in
which I think is a terrific film.
The original one. It's set in during the American Civil War in the South, an all-girls school. One of the girls stumbles across a Union soldier in the woods, played by Colin Farrell, who's injured, takes him in, and shit goes down from that point on. But again, done with much more of a kind of sly sense of humour than you might expect from a period piece like that, and outstanding cast: Kidman, Kirsten Dunst, Elle Fanning, Farrell.
Colin Farrell has really, but he's morphed into a hell of an actor.
He's one of these guys who I think he's like a character actor cursed with a leading man's looks. If you can call that a curse. But he's great in kind of weirdo supporting roles and kind of more low key stuff. He's not necessarily made for the kind of big Hollywood action hero that I think they originally tried to get him to be. You look at the early 2000s, he was in like SWAT, and he was Bullseye and Daredevil.
I've never forgiven him since doing Bullseye and Daredevil. It takes a lot to get me back into see
I confess I own SWAT on DVD. I apologise for that.
So all this kind of stuff that he wasn't necessarily a great fit for. With some, I think he's really good in Michael Mann's Miami Vice, but I think certainly over the last 5-10 years he's really found his niche in kind of more offbeat stuff in supporting roles, or as I say, in the lead in kind of lower budget fearalism. Let his freak flag fly.
I think the Beguiled also would be an excellent companion piece to Lady Macbeth. Those would be great to watch back to back.
It's interesting, the films that we've been talking about, as I say, there does seems to be the idea of the filmmaker's, almost unmistakable vision as important. I'm even thinking about things like the New Zealand director that's done Thor.
Taika Waititi.
Exactly. Which is, it's his film. You can see that despite it being part of the Marvel Universe, he's made it look in an incredible way. And all of these films are auteur films almost, even though a lot of them are big budget, are really successful movies, from Sofia Coppola to Scorsese and all of these things.
Speaking of which, one that I kind of wanted to flag up, just because not just of it being a very, very good film in and of itself, and one that was in my top 10, but one because it potentially points the way towards how things might be going from this point on in terms of exhibition, is Noah Baumbach's The Meyerowitz Stories, which is a Netflix original. So if you wanted to see the latest film from the director of Francis Ha, Mistress America, The Squid and the Whale, you have a Netflix account. You can just go to a cinema and see. I think it got a very limited release in America, but it got a day and date release over here, so we watched it the weekend that all the first reviews started coming out in America. Watched it on the Sunday night on Netflix. It's great. It's not, the budget hasn't been cut. It's not like a made for TV or a direct to video movie or anything like that. It's a Noah Baumbach film that you'd happily go and see in the cinema. Adam Sandler, Dustin Hoffman, Ben Stiller, Emma Thompson, terrific cast, fantastic. Brilliantly written, beautifully observed, just one of Baumbach's best. I happily put it in top 3 Noah Baumbach films, and
but it's not going to be out in the cinema here apart from
It's a Netflix film, and I think that's the way that, I think a lot of people are going to those kind of studios to get funding. Jim Jarmusch's Patterson last year was funded by Amazon, or this distribution was funded by Amazon. Spike Lee, who's working with Amazon now, and Netflix, he's now doing She's Gotta Have It as a TV show. So
Woody Allen did his first TV show.
Yeah. Although maybe, if we want to bring up Woody Allen at this particular cultural juncture, it's interesting that seems to be the way that a lot of filmmakers are now pursuing. That's a way that a lot of filmmakers are now going to have some kind of creative control over it. Because you don't have the pressures of necessarily the opening weekend being the be all and end all. Yeah,
but do you think we're going to lose something then if that's the case?
I mean, I think so. I'm still very much a big advocate of actually seeing stuff in the cinema, and I mean, even to the extent that I feel like a lot has been lost just in the shift to digital. Because it almost feels like, part of me feels like we're not losing that much between seeing a film digitally projected in the cinema and just seeing it at home on a decent setup. Because it's essentially the same file. That's the difference. If it was still 35mm in the cinema or 70mm or any other kind of actual physical film that was being projected, then you're really going to notice a difference. But I don't know. It's a tricky one, because part of me agrees with Quentin Tarantino's proclamation from a few years ago that digital projection is just cinema, just TV in public.
Yeah.
Because it's the same file, it's the exact same image quality that you're going to get from a Blu-ray or a Netflix stream or a TV broadcast or something. It's just the same file that's being used for all of them, because it's digital now and because it's transmuted into that, and there's still this kind of not intangible, very tangible quality that you get from a decent print. Just recently, a couple of weekends ago, the GFT showed Lawrence of Arabia from 70mm, a big large format print, and it was incredible experience. And the atmosphere was great. There was a sold out screening and it was buzzing. It was really and that's the kind of thing that you worry that will be lost if there's a complete shift to Netflix and Amazon and these.
But it's interesting because on one hand we're saying that there's these amazing looking films being made, but there might be less chance to see them on the big screen as a result.
Yeah. Well, again, I think as people's home setups get better, then there's maybe less of a. There's maybe less being lost. Again, I'm playing devil's advocate here because I don't want to see cinema dying out as a public pursuit. I'd still much rather be able to go and see something on the big screen with a fantastic setup and everything like that. But even look at kind of just standards of presentation slipping and multiplexes and stuff like that as well. You gotta ask are a lot of people going to see it to its best advantage in the cinema, or will they be better just seeing it at home? Especially especially in terms of distribution. I mean, if you can stay home. And say you live we're lucky because we live in Glasgow and we've got the GFT, we've got a massive cinema world and stuff, and we get most things day and date with their release in the rest of the country. But if you're living in a small town, say you're living in Dunoon or
they've got an excellent film festival.
Yeah, who do have an excellent film festival, but they have a 2-screen cinema, or St Andrews, with 2-screen cinema. Maybe you have to wait 3 or 4 weeks to get the latest big releases or something. You can either wait a month and go see the latest DC effort, or you can watch a new Noah Baumbach film there and then on the same weekend as everybody else, and it feels
so just like in larger cinemas, choice becomes less because you've got 10 screens of Star Wars or something like that, and actually people so the films that we've been talking about are less likely to perhaps they might go, why bother if it's so difficult to get it on screens in the first place, why bother at all?
Which again, it would be a shame if that became. It would be a shame if streaming became the only avenue for, smaller filmmakers. If you have to be above a certain budget to be able to make it to cinema screens, then that would be a loss. But at the same time, it does, again, just to play devil's advocate, it does completely open it up for people at home who maybe don't have the same opportunities to see smaller films whose local cinemas maybe wouldn't play the kind of stuff we've been talking about, wouldn't get the Florida Project or Moonlight if it hadn't won the Oscar, or anything like this, or wouldn't get a new Noah Baumbach film generally, and now they have access to all this stuff because it's right there on Netflix, and Netflix is promoting it and funding it and making it available. Again, not in praise of Netflix, I don't even have my own Netflix account, and I'm not here
this
to show for
podcast is not sponsored by Netflix
or affiliate. Other streaming services are available and probably better. But it's interesting that seems to be the way that a lot of kind of auteurs are going now.
Well, I think that's an interesting place to leave it, and that was the year in film that was, as I say, and we'll be back with the best music from 2017 after the short break. See you then. Cheers.